Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today, all about clutter and how it affects the brain. We're going to be taking a look at some research articles that I think are really going to be eye-opening for all of us. Just
Absolutely.
because I know we hear a lot about decluttering and the importance of being tidy and organized. But you know what I bet a lot of people don't realize is that it actually goes beyond just like the aesthetics. It can actually impact the way that our brains process information.
Yeah, it really does. The brain has to work so hard to kind of sift through all that noise, the visual noise.
So it's almost like if you're in a room,
hmm
a really crowded room, and everyone's trying to talk to you at the same time.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, so you're trying to focus on one conversation, but there's just so much other input happening all around you.
Yeah, and you know what? Everything's competing for your attention. Every little object, every piece of paper, every knickknack.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling, where you just feel mentally exhausted after spending any amount of time in a cluttered space.
Well, right, because your brain is constantly trying to filter out the irrelevant stuff, and that takes so much energy.
And I was reading about this really interesting study that was done with macaque monkeys. You know, they're known for having very similar visual systems to humans.
Yes.
So the researchers found that when these monkeys were exposed to clutter, it actually altered or disrupted the flow of information in their visual cortex.
Oh.
And that's the part of the brain that's responsible for processing, what we see.
It's like the clutter was basically messing with their ability to focus on specific images.
Yeah. And they're thinking that if it's happening in the monkeys, it's likely happening to us as well. So if you find yourself in a messy room or, your desk is just piled high with stuff and you just feel overwhelmed, it's not just you being picky.
Right.
There's an actual neurological reason for it.
Yeah, your brain is truly struggling to process all of that visual input.
So it's not just a feeling.
No, and it can affect your cognitive abilities.
How so?
Well, for example, your working memory. Working memory is that part of your brain that acts like a mental notepad.
Yeah, like when you're trying to remember a phone number, you're running to grab a pen and paper.
Exactly, and you're trying to hold that information just temporarily while you're working on a task. But now just imagine trying to do that while you're surrounded by stacks of papers and mail and just like a bunch of clutter. Your brain has to work so hard just to deal with that clutter.
That's why I can never remember what I walked into a room for if it's messy.
Right?
It's like I walk in and my brain just shuts down.
It's true. And, beyond just, maybe forgetting things, clutter can also make it harder to follow, complex instructions.
Right.
Or to make decisions effectively. Or even just to, control your impulses.
So it's like it's making us less sharp mentally.
Well, I don't know if it's that dramatic, but
Yeah.
it is making your brain work harder than it needs to, and all that extra effort can lead to mental fatigue and reduced productivity.
So it's not just about feeling frazzled. It's actually like less efficient.
Exactly. And you know what? It gets even more interesting. There are studies that have shown that clutter doesn't just, distract us. It can actually trigger a stress response in the brain.
What do you mean like clutter is causing us stress?
It is your brain kind of perceives clutter as a threat. And that can trigger the release of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So it's almost as if your brain is constantly on high alert when you're in a cluttered space.
So like my messy desk is putting my brain into fight or flight mode.
Well, it might not be as intense as, facing actual danger, but that underlying mechanism is similar. Your brain's trying to make sense of all the chaos, and that can lead to this kind of chronic low-grade stress.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay, so we're talking about how clutter can make us feel stressed and overwhelmed.
Mhm.
But is there like a long-term impact on our health from all that cortisol?
There can be, yeah. Chronically elevated cortisol levels have been linked to all sorts of health problems, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, even weight gain.
Wow. It's amazing to think that something like clutter can have such a big effect on us.
It really is, and that's why it's so important to understand the connection between, our physical environment and our mental state.
So, hearing all this about the downsides of clutter kind of makes me want to run home and start cleaning up right away.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the good things that can happen when we create like a more clutter-free environment for ourselves?
Well, first of all, you're going to free up a lot of mental energy.
Yeah.
When your brain isn't constantly trying to process all that visual noise, it's got more resources available for other tasks.
Like we're giving our brains a break.
Exactly. And when your brain is less burdened, you're going to experience more focus, better concentration, and better decision-making.
Yeah, I can definitely say that when my workspace is tidy, I feel much more clear-headed.
And it's not just about work. Decluttering can also have a really positive impact on your personal life. When you're less stressed and overwhelmed, you're more likely to be present and engaged in your relationships.
So decluttering can help us connect with others.
It can. When your mind is free from clutter, you've got more mental space to, connect with people.
What about sleep? I've heard that decluttering can help with that too.
Absolutely. A clutter-free bedroom can help you sleep better in a few ways. First, it gets rid of those visual distractions that can keep your mind active when you're trying to wind down.
Oh yeah, I've definitely laid awake at night staring at piles of clothes or unfinished projects.
And secondly, remember how clutter triggers the release of cortisol. Well, when you declutter your bedroom, you're creating a more calming and relaxing environment. And that can lower your cortisol levels and promote better sleep.
It sounds like decluttering is a win-win. You get a more peaceful environment and a more rested mind.
Exactly, and the benefits don't stop there. Some people find that decluttering can actually spark their creativity.
Really? How so?
When you clear away physical clutter, you're also clearing away mental clutter. And that can create space for new ideas to emerge and flow.
So it's like decluttering our space can declutter our minds.
That's a great way to put it. And for some people, decluttering can even be a spiritual practice, It's about letting go of the old and making space for the new.
I like that there's definitely a sense of lightness and freedom that comes with letting go of things you don't need anymore.
Exactly. Decluttering can be a powerful tool for personal growth.
Okay, I'm convinced. But how do we actually go about decluttering? It can feel so overwhelming to even start.
It can be, yeah, but the key is to start small. Don't try to do everything at once.
So where should we start?
Choose just one small area that's been bugging you. Maybe it's that junk drawer that you're afraid to open, or a corner of your desk that's become a magnet for clutter.
Pick one small battle, not the whole war.
Right.
Okay, what's next?
Set a timer for 15 minutes and just focus on decluttering that one area. You might be surprised how much you can get done in that short amount of time.
15 minutes, I can do that. And even if you only get that one small area done, you're still making progress.
Exactly, and as you start to experience those benefits, you'll be more motivated to tackle the bigger areas.
It's about momentum.
Yes, and remember, decluttering isn't about being a minimalist. It's about creating a space that works for you, a space that supports, your well-being and helps you live your best life.
That's a good point. It's not about getting rid of everything and living in a white box. It's about being intentional about what we have around us.
Exactly.
I love that idea, making it a space that really reflects you.
And sometimes that means letting go of things, even if they have sentimental value. I know it can be tough, but it can also be really freeing.
Yeah, you're making space for new things.
Exactly. And remember, decluttering isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. Just like you tidy up your home regularly, you need to tidy up your mind and life too.
So it's about being mindful about how we live.
Yeah. And the good news is even small changes can make a difference. You don't have to go full minimalist to reap the benefits.
You know what's really stuck with me today is how much our environment affects our mental state. It's not just about, how things look. It's about creating a space that supports us.
I agree. Our surroundings can really impact us. They can lift us up or drag us down. And when we create a more harmonious environment, we're basically taking care of our mental and emotional health.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. We've learned so much about clutter and how it affects the brain. Everything from how it disrupts our neural pathways to how it triggers stress responses. But we've also seen how amazing the benefits of decluttering are. We can be more focused, more productive, and feel less stressed and anxious.
Absolutely. And hopefully now our listeners feel empowered to make some changes and create a more fulfilling life.
Before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. Now that you know how clutter affects you, what's one small change you can make today to improve your focus and well-being? Maybe it's just clearing off your desk, or organizing a drawer, or putting away those clothes that have been sitting there. Every small step counts. You're creating a more peaceful and productive environment for yourself.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.